Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and today something extremely nice. We're gonna explore Laphroaig head to head. We're gonna find out which Laphroaig is the best, in my humble opinion. I got them lined up from my left to right by percent alcohol. So we have Laphroaig Select at 40% ABV, so 80 proof. We have Laphroaig 10 at 43% ABV or 86 proof. And then we have Laphroaig Quarter Cask at 48% ABV or 96 proof. Hopefully I did my math correct on that one. So I previously have explored all three of these. I have done a review of all three of them. In this last little series here that I've done, I explored the Select and the Quarter Cask. And so now it is time to go ahead and do all three head to head. I have a little bit of the Select already poured because that was the video that I just finished up with about 30 seconds ago. So we're going to put that right there. The Laphroaig 10, we are going to go ahead and give myself a little pour of that. So there's Laphroaig 10 and the cask, quarter cask here. I'm going to put that in there as well. All right, so first things first. So there's all three. I'm going to remove the bottles after we kind of look at each one so that I don't knock them over. You know what? We're going to leave them up. We're going to risk it. So I'm just going to hold them up real quick. You can see there's not a whole lot of variance in color. Now, they're very light on color, but don't let that fool you about what you're getting in them. So all three of them are kind of the same. I would say that the Select is the lightest in color. There's not much difference between the Quarter Cask and the Laphroaig 10. Yeah, so as a whole, whiskey is higher. The higher in ABV you get, so the more alcohol you have, the more flavor you tend to get. It's not always true, but it's kind of the rule of thumb. And also, the more age you have, the more rounder the flavors, the more melded the flavors are together, and kind of the more oily, clingy you get on the palate, and the less spikiness you get in it. You can also get more intense flavor, and the more oak and stuff that you tend to get out of the flavor profile. Not always the case, but those are kind of just broad generalities when it comes to whiskey. So Laphroaig, if you're not familiar, they're all Islay Scotches. Laphroaig is an Islay distillery from the Isle of Islay in Scotland, and they're known for peat, right? So they smoke the malt. So if you're not familiar with the malting process, you take barley, you get it damp or wet, and then you let it germinate. You let it start to sprout. As soon as it sprouts, you stop the germination process by heating it up. And to heat it up and dry it out, what you do in Scotland, when you get that peaty smoke flavor, is use peat, which, if you're not familiar, is like swamp dirt, but it's it's rich in organic material, so it burns quite well. And they use peat as their fuel source in a kiln to dry out the malted barley, or the barley that is sprouted. That's called malt. And why you need that to happen is the chemical reaction when the seeds of barley start to germinate is it takes the proteins and it turns them into, is it proteins or starches? Great, now I'm going to get this wrong. It takes the proteins anyways. Sorry, it takes the starches and it converts it into sugar. And to do that, it uses an amylase enzyme. And that enzyme in barley is high enough in volume that there's enough to convert the starch in the malt and carry over into the other grains that are in your mash. So like with bourbon, corn, wheat, rye, whatever your other grains are, there's enough enzyme in the malted barley to convert the starches in those grains along with the starches in the barley. Now Scotch, these in particular, these Laphroaigs being single malts, means that there is only malt, and only malt in Scotland means only malted barley. And so the enzymes in the malt is solely used to convert the starch in the barley into sugar, which then can be fermented and turned into alcohol. So hopefully you're either familiar with the process or I explained it just broadly enough that I didn't completely lose you. Anyways, we're going to get down to brass tacks here and start exploring. So we're going to start with the lowest proof here. Now, I just did this video, and so my mouth still tastes like the Laphroaig Select. 40% ABV, 80%, or sorry, 80 proof. Boy, misspeak there. And this was all sorts of brine and savory meatiness with the peat smoke. There was very few sweet notes in there. We'll see how it's changed now. This has been open to the air for maybe 5 minutes. Now I get a little bit of sweet maltiness out of it, but largely it is still savory brine, like honey baked ham. So you get just that little touch of sweetness in there, but it's just like meaty savoriness. Okay, on the taste here, see what we get here. Okay, so this still holds true. It is peat smoke forward, peaty, brine, savory, meatiness. What you smell in the nose is what you get in the flavor profile. So, Laphroaig Select, we're gonna say that one's the meaty, briny one of them. Here we go in Laphroaig 10. So this is kind of classic, available almost everywhere. Picked Laphroaig 10 up. Actually, we should run through prices quick. So, Laphroaig 10 here locally, $54.69. The Select is the cheapest of the three at $47.59 here in Wyoming. And then the Quarter Cask is the most expensive out of the three, locally $62.99. So that's kind of your price range there, from the mid 40s to the low 60s. So Laphroaig 10 on the nose. Kind of get an earthy, sweet spring. So right now it's March and it's spring outside, so it's snowing and raining and sunny today. It's wet, but it's in like the upper 30s, low 40s. And if I step outside, I get a breath of some of what is in this glass. I get some iodine, a little bit of Band-Aid, nice brininess in there. But there's a hint of sweetness to it, like a springtime sweetness. Kind of that petrichor smell of wet earth and rain. Now on the taste, smoke, peatiness forward. There's a hint of like either butterscotch or vanilla. Just a slight sweetness that's underneath a heavy brine savoriness. So this one, so I will say the Select so far is like 10x as far as the briny, sweety meat that I get out of the 10. So this one's more intense on those notes. I would say the Laphroaig 10 has a more rounded characteristic to it. Second sip, this has more sweet to it, more sugary it is a salted caramel that comes through along with the smoke and the brine. The savory meat is more subdued. Yeah. So I really there's no winner so far. They're all very, very good, but for very different reasons. Going into the quarter cask, I got this has more butterscotch in the nose and a little bit of brine. The ethanol is presenting a little bit more forward. This smells lighter and fruitier in the glass. So the quarter cask kind of having more of the sweet notes in it. So on the taste, sweet, vanilla, butterscotch, a little bit of caramel in there. Rolls into the peat, but the peat is very tamped down. You get a little bit of brininess on the end. Now, mind you, you might not get these same flavors, characteristics because I'm going head to head. Each whiskey prior to is going to impact the flavor of the next one in line. However, I would say right here, you can put a dividing line. Meaty, savory, smoky goodness. This is more, the quarter cask is more sweet, butterscotch, caramel. Those notes dominate the beginning and the mid palate. You get a brine and a smoke at the end on this one. And we'll go back in for a second. The nose hasn't changed hardly at all. That time the peat smoke came more forward, but was still the underlying characteristics to caramel. Salted caramel moves into this brine. So, tasting them all head to head, here's my conclusion. You cannot go wrong with any of the three. I would say how they are laid out as far as proof or ABV. ABV. I don't know if I slurred there or not, but just in case you didn't catch that, is exactly how the flavor profiles come together. So, quarter cask. This has more of the sweet notes in it, more subdued on the briny savory, or on the savoriness. The brininess is there, but that's also tamped down a little bit. So if you want sweeter notes, go, and it's kind of amazing because this is the highest proof of all three. The Laphroaig Quarter Cask. Okay, the Laphroaig 10 is kind of in the middle, as it sits here on display. It is savory, meaty, peat smoke, barbecue, with just a hint of sweetness to it. Like that one a lot. And then on the lowest proof here, the Laphroaig Select, there's almost no sweet in there at all. There's just a little hint of, as I said before, honey baked ham, but it's all meat, savory, barbecue, peat smoke, brininess, and there's a nice brine throughout all three of them. I would say the Select and the 10-year have the most brine to them. But I would say Laphroaig 10 is a great compromise between the two. The Select definitely leans into the meaty savoriness, and the quarter cask leans more into the caramel sweet notes. So if I had to pick a winner, there is no winner. All three are delicious. All three are amazing. I highly recommend that you go out and pick yourself up one of them, if not all of them, if you have the opportunity. If you've never had Islay Scotch before, I'm gonna push you towards McLeland's Islay. It's cheaper. It's a good introductory into the Islay peat smoke. If you're already familiar with Islay whiskeys, definitely go ahead, give these three a try. They're excellent. Drop in the comments down below your experience with any one of the three or all three if you've happened to have the opportunity. Let me know what you can find them for in your area. Once again, the Select was $47.59. This was the cheapest. Next, we have the Laphroaig 10 at $54.69. And then the Laphroaig Quarter Cask at $62.99 here locally in Wyoming. Love to hear what you have to say about it. If you're not a Scotch fan, let me know what it is that you don't like about Scotch. I have friends and family who, just are in absolute disgust at these. It is amazing to me how many females find these harsher flavors to be enjoyable, and I also enjoy them quite highly. They're not flavor profiles that most people would think that they would enjoy, but the way that they're presented, the round, full bodiness of the flavors, I think makes up for the thought process of what those harsh flavors are going to actually taste like or present. And so because of that, they make for a really, really, really enjoyable experience. Anyways, there you go. There's my head-to-head comparison of Laphroaigs, at least the ones that I own at the moment. No clear winner here. It all depends on either what I'm eating or what the experience I'm going for is. I think that the 10-year and the Select would highly complement any meal. I think just as a nice, neat pour, maybe with a cigar or a pipe at the end of the night, watching the sunset on a deck or something like that, the Laphroaig Quarter Cask might be the way to go. I did enjoy the Quarter Cask on at a meal experience. It was extremely enjoyable at the time that I had it. I would not steer you away from it. I just think that these two, with the savory, meaty characteristics of it, might complement a meal a little bit more. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of the three. Anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel, who has watched, who has commented. Please continue to do so. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, have yourselves a great day. We'll catch you in the next video.